Okay. All right. So I want to welcome everyone to the session today. Roger, we did get the quiz. We did get your response to the quiz. We're just trying to get more people to take it. We want to welcome everyone to our second of our 6 information sessions. We have been, we've put together a resource guide, which we've sent out to people. It's a really good resource of pretty much everything One Brick, nuts and bolts, from who we are, the structure of our local teams, national team, each individual role. And so we're doing a series of sessions. 2 weeks ago, Brian and Clive talked about it, gave an overview of One Brick and how we started, sort of our history and, sort of what we're about. And today we're going to talk specifically about recruitment and training and event managers. This is the second of the 6 sessions. If you, I'm just going to show the resource guide should be in the link of the email I sent. If you don't have it, I can share it with you. Just let me know. This is what it looks like. So we're going to talk about the specific areas that relate to recruitment and training. And then we'll have time for questions and have everyone talk. But I want to start with a little icebreaker. And so I'm going to ask everybody, what does One Brick mean to you? Why is One Brick important to you? And I guess I'll start. I've been involved with One Brick for 9 years as of this year. It's hard to believe it's been that long. And it's meant a lot to me. I mean, One Brick has, honestly, there's been some rough times over the last, not recently, but that I've had to go to from time to time. And One Brick, honestly, at times was the gel that kept me together. Being able to be involved with this team, the friends I know through One Brick, and the community we have is really been beneficial for me and really helped me through some of those periods. So One Brick's really important part of my life, and I'm glad that I became part of it. Who wants to go next? Brian, do you want to
go? Sure. I'll go off the same theme. It's funny. 20 years ago, I don't know, whatever it was, my now wife and I were dating, but she broke up with me. And I needed something to do. And so, volunteering got me out of the apartment and kept my mind off of stuff. Prevented me from, I don't know, jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge, and it's been, fantastic for 20 some odd years now. And the good news is, she relented and got back together with me, and we got married. So yeah, life's good.
Who wants to go next?
I can go. Can you guys hear me now? I switched to my phone.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so my computer froze as soon as I tried to click into this call, so I just couldn't turn on or off the microphone. But yeah, for me, so I've been involved with One Brick for 2.5 years now. So since day 3 of moving to Boston is when I first got involved, and for me, it was like a nice foundation.
I didn't realize you found us that quickly after moving.
Oh yeah, no, I was looking it up before I moved to the city, and I was like, how do I find a way into volunteering? Because that's always been kind of like a pillar throughout life. And I think by continuously being a part of, the city and the spaces that we operate in, it grounds you more so than just kind of day in, day out, clock in 9 to 5. And you're like, oh, well, this is the greater picture of what we're trying to build as a society, which has been interesting now. Actually, I moved back home to Maryland, so I haven't been in Boston for the past 4 months now. So I'm trying to, I guess this may be a question for later. I'm trying to figure out how to still be involved, maybe virtually, if that's even an option. But anyway, yeah, it's a good kind of walk back into the space that we grew up in.
I don't know where in Maryland you are, but we do have a DC chapter.
Okay. Yeah, that's like an hour from me, but I just need to find, that's a good option. Thank you.
And they're looking for people, so.
Good to know.
But we are trying to do some virtual stuff here. Logan just took over a CD, and he's has some plans to do that. So stay tuned to our newsletter. That should have some info on it. Who wants to go next? Or should I pick somebody? Jeanette, do you want to go?
I can go if you like.
Oh, go ahead, Roger.
Great, thanks for the opportunity. So I joined in 2010, and I like it because it's been fitting my flexible schedule for 10 years. And like you said, sometimes times are better than others, but this has always been kind of like the commonality to show the greater good, and allows me to connect with people that also kind of appreciate the greater good despite minor turbulence throughout year to year. So it's a good group to work with. I've been in the nonprofit space for decades, and this is by far my favorite because it's just so easy to do. Thanks.
Jeanette or Keegan?
Well, I can give you the history. I originally started volunteering with One Brick. I was working at Microsoft, and at the time as a contractor, the deal you had is you got to work 1 year and you had to take 100 days off before you could come back and work for them again. So I was in the middle of my first 100-day break and was collecting unemployment and had a job ready to go back in 100 days, but wanted something to do that was worthwhile with my time, and happened to be exactly when One Brick was having their launch party here in Seattle, and got involved and haven't looked back since. I am back at work full time now and no more contracts, but still, 11 years later. It's a great way to get involved in the community and to volunteer without having to really commit to a schedule that I personally can't keep up with.
Awesome.
I will echo that. I've been involved with One Brick now for about a little over 10 years. And I had originally found One Brick because I was volunteering for a couple of other nonprofits, but my schedule was such that I couldn't commit to a regular volunteer shift on a weekly basis. So I was just looking for volunteer opportunities that fit my schedule, and found One Brick online, started volunteering. Folks were cool. It was easy to sign up for it. Went to a couple of social events too, got recruited to be part of the events team, and became chapter director in 2011. And here I am still. No, but it's great because, I mean, I find that I meet the best people volunteering.
Mhm.
I mean, I work with a bunch of really nice folks and a bunch of really not so great folks. So it helps me to keep me balanced. So I love it. I intend to stick around for a while.
Awesome. So I'm just going to get into some slides, and then I'll just show some areas of the resource guide that might be useful as a refresher. And then we can answer any questions or talk about any other thing related to event managers and recruitment and training. So I think we all kind of know our mission, but I figured I'd put it in here anyway. We're all about creating community volunteers and making an impact. Obviously, you're all familiar with how we fulfill our mission by providing opportunities where volunteers get to know each other and have fun. That we have that social piece, which really makes us different than some other volunteer organizations. Inviting volunteers out afterwards, grab a bite of drink after the shift ends, hosting social events, and then encouraging a team atmosphere in each of our local chapters. Several of our other sessions are going to talk about specific sections of how chapters operate. We're going to have one on recruitment, one on events, one on volunteer and community relations, and one on the chapter director role itself. And today talks more about recruitment and training and event management. So this is sort of the basic structure of a One Brick chapter in terms of those 4 teams, and then the management team of EMs and ECs. I think at one point we considered renaming them social coordinators, but I'm not sure if that ever stuck. this is sort of an overview of the executive team, and again, we're focusing on recruitment and training. The recruitment and training team, so their goal is just making sure that each chapter has a strong team of event managers and event coordinators that are friendly, outgoing. They support the mission of One Brick and making sure that we're able to staff all our events. Our event management team goals, as an event manager and as part of the exec team, you're basically the face of One Brick. You're the core of One Brick. Volunteers, most of the time, the people, their first introduction to One Brick will be the event manager. For many of our nonprofits, their connection to One Brick are event managers that are at the events. So it's a good way to basically, the event manager is a really important role because it's really the keystone of what we do. And, you know, basically we're representing One Brick to both volunteers and nonprofits before and during the events, making sure the event runs smoothly by taking care of any issues as they arise, making sure volunteers are engaged and enjoying their time, and then making sure, and this is really important too, making sure our volunteers feel welcome, encourage socializing before, during, and after the event. We've had many regular volunteers tell us that the reason why they came back to One Brick and kept volunteering after the first time is they had such a good experience, and a lot of that was driven by how friendly and outgoing our event managers are. The event manager role, just as a quick recap, confirming, you know, obviously confirming RSVPs as they come in. With our website, as you all know, that our volunteers don't get an auto reply like many other sites. When you sign up for something, you'll get an automatic email. The way it works here is that we send individual emails, so you get a notification, you'll have to respond. EM's another important aspect is to send a reminder email out with any additional details on the event, directions, transit information, parking, dress code. Some events have that, what to bring, and that kind of thing. Making sure you introduce yourself to the nonprofit when you arrive before your shift begins. Making sure volunteers feel comfortable from start to finish. Take photos if allowed by the nonprofit. I know there's some events that the nonprofit doesn't like if we take photos, or we have to be careful because they're serving kids and other clients who they may not want their picture to be taken. So you need to be cognizant of that when you're taking photos at events. And then another important role is planning and hosting the post-volunteering social event, reconciling the event on the One Brick website, and then sending a thank you email to volunteers. We also have the event or social coordinator role. Not every chapter uses this role. I know in my history with One Brick in Boston, we generally have made everyone EMs, and we'll use an event coordinator if we need to have a backup or have more staff on site. But I know other chapters sort of have more of a hierarchy where people become event coordinators first, and then they become event managers later. So the specific role of the event coordinator is to engage and welcome volunteers while the EM is signing others in, to make sure volunteers are comfortable and engaged and work throughout the event. Once again, to help take photos if allowed by the nonprofit, and then plan and host a volunteering, the post-volunteering social, and then be as a backup to the EM. Some best practices for the event management team, and we have some, I'll just flip back. We have a full, in the resource guide, there's a full, long guide, the recruitment and training best practices. At the end, there are 4 resources, and one is a event manager resource training guide, which you can get to through the resource guide, which is basically a nuts and bolts of the roles of an event manager from start to finish, all the everything that you need to know as an event manager. This guide is important for you to look at. So that gives you into a little more details, including some best practices. But again, some best practices are make sure you get there early. You want to ideally get there maybe 10, 15 minutes early. Make sure that, because other volunteers may show up early, they'll give you some time to introduce yourself to the staff in the nonprofit. If you need to find out what's going to go on for the day, get to know the layout of the location. At some events, for example, if you're doing, like, say, an outdoor cleanup or a 5K race, the setup may be different, or people may be split into different roles. So it's important to get there and figure that stuff out first, so we can inform our volunteers as they show up. Make sure we're greeting volunteers as they arrive. Let them know what you know about what will be going on. If you have an EC or social coordinator, obviously you want to introduce the volunteers to them. And again, make sure everyone feels welcome and comfortable. If you have a chance to do an icebreaker, doesn't always work in particular events. I know we have some events in Boston where you get there. There's one of my favorites, event called the Red Cross Food Pantry. You get there and they immediately get put to work. So it's actually a difficult event as an event manager to try to track people down and sort of welcome people, because they're basically, you're put to work right away. So it takes some, being clever, making sure you take breaks and find the other one workers. But if you have a chance to do an icebreaker, it's a great idea. And we actually have some examples or suggestions for icebreakers that you can get to through the resource guide as well. Make sure that we're giving the spiel about OneBrick, our little, I hate to use the term elevator speech, but I guess it kind of is. Letting new volunteers know about OneBrick, or either other volunteers that may be there at the event who might not know about OneBrick. Let them know about OneBrick. Talk about why you like OneBrick, what your favorite events are, how they learned about OneBrick. And make sure, the goal is to make sure people know that we're just not a website that people go to sign up for volunteer events. That we're not volunteer match per se. We got a community, and we do more than just connecting people to nonprofits. I mentioned the icebreaker. I guess I've got a little ahead of myself. They really do help people to get to know each other, and is a good way to get started to build bonds. And this is another interesting tip. So, as I mentioned, the example in the event where an icebreaker really doesn't work out well, you can also do it at your post-event social. So that's a good idea there too. Make sure as an EM you're checking on volunteers during the event. This helps people to know that we care about their experience, making sure people are busy, engaged, and things are going well. And this also allows us to move people around, or confer with the nonprofit if people aren't busy. I know I've been at some events where we don't have that much to do. We've pointed out to the nonprofit, and then that's helped things out. Post-event social is a key part of what we do. As I said, it's sort of the social side of OneBrick. So, building our community is a vital part of who we are. And, the post-event social is really a key part of that. Not every event, again, is conducive to that. Let's say if you have, sometimes we'll have an event that ends at 11 p.m. on a weeknight. But one actually thing that was tried by some event managers in the past in Boston, and I think it's actually an interesting idea, is the concept of a pre-social for an event that ends like really late on a weekend, like a weekday, like a gala that goes from 8 to 11. So the idea was actually to have a pre-social. If people would meet up before the event to get a cup of coffee or a bite to eat, and then they go to the event. I thought it was a great idea. I'm not sure how often we do it, but it's certainly something to think about. And make sure we invite people back when we're at the, that's a critical part. We want people to enjoy their OneBrick experience and come back. And I keep looking at this picture, and it reminds me of New Orleans. I felt that muffaletta is so good. Just looking at that makes me hungry. Being part of the team, as part of, and this is true for not just event management, but for the entire exec team and anyone involved with OneBrick. Everyone's volunteers, and we're all busy, and we want to just make sure we're being respectful of each other's time. So, make sure we're showing up time and responding thoughtfully when people are sending emails to OneBrick, not waiting 2 weeks to get back to people. Obviously try to be responsive. And that's true with volunteers. If volunteers reach out to you, you want to make sure that we're responding in quick order. Obviously, it doesn't have to be, right away, but as long as we get to it promptly, that's great to do. Be present. Obviously we have, as an exec team, and local chapters obviously have in-person meetings and conference calls, and those are an important part of being part of the One Brick team. And we obviously have all hands meetings and other types of events where our whole management team is involved. So we just want to make sure that it's important to try to attend those and be an active participant, be engaged, and be open. Everyone comes to One Brick, brings their own ideas and experiences. We just want to make sure we're listening to everyone, giving everyone a chance to make their voice heard. Assume good intentions. Again, we're all in the same team, part of the same group. Often, sometimes people will say stuff that may not be the best thing to say. We want to make sure that before we get upset or feel offended, assume that they had good intentions. Obviously, if our feelings are hurt, we want to obviously check in with the people who said something, explain how we feel. And in our experience with a lot of things at One Brick, most of the time the conflicts are due to some type of communication issue or misunderstanding. And using this concept is a great way to continue building a good team. And obviously checking our assumptions. We need to avoid making assumptions and ask questions to make sure we fully understand each other. What's in it for you as part, obviously everyone here I think is part of the team, but for potential event managers and exec team members, what's in it for you? And it's obviously having a chance to participate in leadership in all hands meetings where we have a say in the direction of the chapter, joining exec and management team social events in addition to chapter social events, helping to build your skill sets and resume building. That's actually a big thing, especially with some of the roles, especially if you're doing volunteer relations, you might build your skills in terms of marketing our events, writing a newsletter, interpersonal skills. There's a lot of different skills that you'll pick up through working with One Brick, and most of all, being part of a great team. I think the great thing about One Brick is our team environment, the team strategy, team sort of concept. It really works very well in my experience with One Brick.
Hey, Graham, could I jump in here for a moment?
Sure.
So what I was hoping we could do is hear from.
Well, yeah, that I actually finished, so I was about to shift to everyone.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, what I was hoping to do is just hear from each person and find out, what specifically each person's hoping to get out of the session.
Yeah.
And what sorts of resources and other information would be useful to each person. So, if I look at the resource guide here, it's phenomenal. We
could talk about it for hours.
It's literally everything that you could possibly want or not want to know about One Brick, all in one guide. And specific to recruiting and training, like what strikes me is that if you show that page, the very end of the recruiting and training section.
Go back to that.
The resources included in this section, like that strikes me as super powerful in that rather than us going through, so for example.
No, I wasn't planning to go through all 4 of those. We'd be here all night.
Yeah. I know you just went through event manager information session slideshow, right?
A piece of that. Actually, I actually cut it back.
So I think you've given everyone a taste of like all the things that are available in here for everyone.
Yeah.
And so like, I don't know, if I think about Seattle, Jeanette and Keegan, if you guys, or, Bay Area, Roger, like, or or hey, so if you decide to start up a Maryland chapter or join the DC chapter, like at your fingertips in the resource guide, if you just click these links, like all of a sudden you have, you know, this like complete document at your fingertips that you can use for recruiting and training. Yeah. So, Graham, is it okay if we sort of open it up, you know, and go one by one and find out what folks are hoping?
That was what I was thinking, is I'd go through that presentation and then we'd open it up to everyone. So you're exactly on the same page with me, Brian. So
fantastic. Graham, you want to pick someone and just start going down?
Okay. You want to start, Roger? Do you have anything to do?
Sure. So thanks for putting all the time together for that training manual. It's really comprehensive and a goldmine as you go through it. What I did want to touch on—
It wasn't just me, it was a teamwork. So.
Oh, I know, it's all teamwork. And one of the things I want to touch on is how to work remotely during these tough times. And a couple of folks on the San Francisco Executive Committee have partnered with the food bank to have numerous options every day. And my job as kind of the communications person is to work remotely, and I see what events need filling up, and I'll just post on Craigslist or Facebook. And I think fun is the glue that keeps people coming back, which really differentiates One Brick from others. So I show pictures of people in action, smiling, and then just a picture of the upcoming calendar so people get an idea of like, wow, it's really accessible. And that's the way I kind of help out remotely. It's just trying to spread the word that One Brick is fun and not necessarily like the others in building your own adventure volunteering. That's what I had. Thanks.
That's great. And, you know, I definitely think a lot of the chapters have been struggling with how to keep people engaged during the pandemic. And it sounds like, you know, what you guys are doing by connecting people, working with the food banks, there's a great need there. Is a great way to try to keep people engaged. So it's good work. Soa, do you have anything?
I think it's pretty similar. Just for, you know, audiences that can't be in person, what that could look like for all of our team members. In terms of like recruiting and retention, I'm also curious if that, like, I think in general, yes, we're trying to constantly look for people to share their time and to share kind of their focus. But as I publicize to friends, I'm curious as to how we're kind of reorienting now, like with the narrative, right? Because like it's shifted than like when you would be in an in-person event and like you go out and then you go get coffee or something, right? Or it just feels different. So I'm trying to figure out what the new narrative for that would look like.
Honestly, I think we're still trying to figure that out. Wouldn't you say, Brian?
Yeah.
You know, I think what many chapters have done is that they've at least been doing virtual social events. You know, Silicon Valley's doing, I think, 3 or 4 a month. They've got everything from trivia to Cards Against Humanity. So ways for people to still have fun through Zoom and like Google Hangouts. I know Boston's had a couple. We had like a musical bingo. We had a trivia. We had there was another type of some group activity. So, and there have been a lot of people that show up to them. I think, you know, we've had 20, 30 people in some of these socials, and we've tried to design them carefully, because normally if you have 30 people in a Zoom meeting, it's hard for people to engage. But by breaking people into smaller activities, we've been able to get people to bond. Like in trivia, you break people out into 4 or 5 groups of smaller numbers. I think Chicago's done a virtual social. I think most of the other chapters have tried to do that. But in terms of trying to get people with the new narrative, I think it's something we're still trying to figure out. I work in the Boston chapter, considering ways, to try to get ourselves back volunteering virtually. And there's some options we're looking at. Some of it relates to, like, I think the idea was, I think there's some nonprofits that need like people to knit blankets and stuff like that, or put together type of supplies or put things together for them and then mail it to them. So the idea, of course, we haven't fleshed out yet, would be to do one of these activities, do it on like a social, like a Zoom platform, so people are able to engage while they're virtually volunteering. So we're still trying to figure that out.
Now that you're back in Maryland, are you thinking of potentially joining the DC chapter or starting up a Maryland chapter?
That's the thing. So I'm just here because of the pandemic. Like I just moved to be closer to family. So the intention is to eventually go back to Boston. I just don't know when that would be. So right now I've been mostly reorienting. I do some like corporate citizenship work at my job, and we work with an organization that, they do like summer camps for kids. So we've been trying to figure out how to still get people to show up for stuff like that. But I was trying to figure out what it looks like for this group as well.
Yeah, I mean, and always, if you or anyone else has any ideas or suggestions about how we can try to virtually volunteer, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
All ideas on the table.
Definitely. It might be organization by organization, so maybe we can do that offline since I know we have a more national team here.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking, I think all the chapters may benefit from the concept. So,
okay.
Yeah, definitely connect.
Yeah. Should I do that now or later? Wondering what other people are thinking.
Tell us your thoughts.
Sure. Yeah. No, I was thinking. So, for example, like if there is something that's like in the back end of like some system, like I know we used the Red Cross food pantry example earlier, and I don't know enough about the logistical aspects of everything they do, but I know usually there's a lot of logistics. So I'm wondering if there's a way to take that off of their plates and do that kind of from our computers at home, such that such that the people that can be there and be actual hands can refocus their energy. Or like with More Than Words, for example, I think they have like an online system where they track all of the books that people are donating. So I wonder if there's like a way to support them there.
Those are great ideas. I'll bring that back to the team locally here. I mean, it makes sense. We have so many nonprofit partners who might benefit from some type of back-end help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a great idea. And something that we even can ask, we can even try out in other cities. Go to their nonprofits. Hey, is there anything we could help you out at, but do it while we're at home?
Definitely. Actually, and Roger just messaged, he said maybe assist with like voter registration. So I'm not sure. Yeah. Lots of options there, but
would that be allowable under the 501c3? Or,
I don't know.
Registration is different than political campaigning, right?
I don't know. Roger can speak to
I'm
it
not
maybe.
An attorney, so.
No, I'm just reading Roger's messages.
Yeah.
Tech Soup. What's that, Roger?
So TechSoup is a nonprofit that aggregates people with tech skills to assist in back-end projects for nonprofits. So for example, I've been approached by them to say, would we want to enhance our online security? Because as you know, cybersecurity makes us very vulnerable to ransomware, just like small and mid-sized hospitals, but nonprofits don't invest in a lot in cybersecurity, so that's an option.
That's true.
Otherwise, they assist with website development and mobile app development, and it's just basically folks who want to work remotely with their tech skills and, not get their hands dirty, but use their skills and maximize their output, if that makes sense.
It does.
So that's TechSoup.org.
Great suggestion.
Sorry, I'm making dinners while I kind of shut up the camera every once in a while.
No, that's okay.
Sorry.
I wish I still had the extra 3 hours, like you guys.
So I'll just
You start the day later.
So the San Francisco Food Bank, they have pantries all around the Bay Area, and so they're 3-hour little pop-ups. And so that gives people an opportunity to work within their local community. And so they're kind of officially food bank events, but the One Brick website will direct them to register there. So we're kind of, symbiotically helping each other out. And I do get some responses via the Craigslist asking, details, and I just refer them back to the website.
Do you still get? I'm just curious from because do you still get a lot of people hits through Craigslist? I know it's probably bigger. I know it was bigger in the West Coast in general. I don't think I've used Craigslist in years.
So I've been getting
I'm curious, that's all.
a couple of emails. I post maybe once or twice a week, and I get maybe 3 emails a month. So
Might be worth checking out in other cities too.
yeah, I mean, I cut and paste. So once I have the template down, I go into community and then volunteers, and I put in my email and then cut and paste and drop and drag the pictures. And so it takes about 5 minutes, but I like to tell people it takes about an hour.
Jeanette, is there anything in particular that you were looking for from the resource guide and the information that Graham and team put together?
So we were in the process of reorganizing our team and basically still completing the homework that you gave us at the chapter director retreat and at your house. So I do have a longtime event manager who is prepared to step into the recruitment and training director role. She has a background in HR, and she was going to step in, and then I knew that this whole manual and resource was getting put together in the background, so we decided to hold off on her starting so that she would have something to work with and not have to basically create everything from scratch. So my purpose in being here tonight is to basically get the information that we need to pass on to her so that we can start working on our process for our chapter and seeing what information is out there, what we need to do, what we're missing, and basically what we need to do to adapt to our particular situation here.
Got it.
So the guide itself should, and the links within it, it should be give her a lot of things to start with. I mean, we've got sort of from the R&T team standpoint, it goes through basically all the important roles, how to bring an event manager on, sort of the steps to do that. So there's the training guide, sort of a walkthrough of how you bring someone on. I'd suggest you walk through the guide with her, or give her the guide, and see if she has any questions. I'd be glad to speak or connect with you guys if you need to go over anything more specifically in detail. I'd be glad to do that too.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, you know what? So I'm sharing my screen now.
Yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Dude, so Graham, and it was just Graham. Every time Graham says there were other team members, he's lying. No, I'm joking. So do you like these 4 links are just amazing because if you click on any one of these, it'll bring up, for example, that first one you showed, Graham, for example, the EM resource guide, right?
Yeah, and that's really the nuts and bolts of everything related to being an EM. Anything you might want you need to know.
So I don't know, 15 years ago when I was doing training events, training up new EMs and ECs, I didn't have anything like this, but I mean, this is like literally step by step, here in the management calendar, you can do the following, and, here's the screenshot, and then, okay, before the event, do this to promote. Here's what you do, after somebody RSVPs. Here are more screenshots that show you exactly how to do it. It's amazing. It's really phenomenal. Here's how to plan the after event. Here's the sign-in sheet right here. It's just amazing. So, uh, so Jeanette, like, you think that's what your recruiting and training person needs to be able to get things kicked off? Is there other stuff you think she would need?
No, I think that this is a good starting point for her. I think for our intent and purposes, what we might do is take some of the information and condense it down into sort of one-pagers or just sort of slide screen captures, because some of the things that some of the other chapters do, it doesn't necessarily happen in our chapter. And some of the other roles within the executive teams aren't necessarily filled here. So there are things that we are focusing on and things that we're like, what, we're going to get to that. It's on the list, but it's not one of our priorities right now.
And obviously that's one thing that we, realized when we were making it, guys, and everyone does things a little bit differently, but the intent was to give people sort of an overview. So I think that's fine. And if you need anything specific, once again, we'd be glad to help you.
Sweet.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
All right.
Keegan, or do you have any particular thoughts or anything in particular that you were hoping to get out of this?
No, I kind of came into this with no expectations. I know you guys put a lot of work into this, and I was curious to see how the training sessions were going, and it seems pretty great. And I think I echo a lot of what Jeanette said, but she doesn't need me to. We've got some new people we're training up, and it's great to have some good resources. I know in the past, one of the things we struggled with when Seattle's really growing was how to consistently get people trained and keep them engaged from the point of expressing interest to being assigned as a manager of events. And
yeah,
I think this is perfect.
Got it. So you came in with low expectations, is what you're saying?
No, not low expectations, just no specific expectations.
Oh, that's too funny. Yeah, it's funny. Like, if I think about what I've heard in the past from different chapter leadership teams is like, how do we do X? And we've always just sort of, be like, oh, we had a document that described how we should do it. Shouldn't we dig that up somewhere? And somebody else, oh yeah, we should get to that sometime. And so Graham and team finally, put it all together in one place. And to your point, Jeanette, if there are things that aren't relevant, yeah, you should totally feel free to strip out or condense or summarize. But I think this is pretty comprehensive, and like having the links that you can just click and bring up the presentation, and you can share with anybody. And like in the past, what I would do is I would just send ahead of time, like, a PowerPoint, because I don't know, back when I was in San Francisco, we would have these PowerPoints that I would send or print out and hand to somebody and say, hey, if you're thinking about becoming an EM, here's all that's involved. It's not that much. And that's how I would try to use it to recruit people.
Yeah. And if there's anything we've missed, anything that you feel that we should add, then certainly let us know. All right.
Well, actually, let me ask, like, Roger, is there anything that you can see in the resource guide that we haven't thought of, or that could be better done?
Yeah, it's a living document. So we'll continue to refine this as we go forward.
Right. So I think it's fully comprehensive, and then it's adaptable and scalable. Like some of the people said, chapters are designed to be organically grown, and so as long as you've got all the functions covered, I think it's fine. I mean, I've been on the board for I think 6 years or so, and I've held a variety of roles. Just kind of, it's like volleyball. If someone needs to spike the ball, they spike the ball. If someone needs to, I don't know nothing about volleyball, but it seems like volleyball. Everyone just makes themselves useful however they need to. So that's the greatest team I've been a part of. It's like someone can't do it, someone else is there, 2 other people to pick up the slack. So it's I mean it's a good backbone, it's scalable, and I have no complaints after many years.
Fantastic. And I know, Graham, you've sent it out a couple of times now to the overall management team, but Roger, if you'd be willing to share it with other folks on the management team, because again, it wasn't until I saw those links where you could just click it and the document, pops up out of it that I realized, at like a team meeting or whatever, folks could just print this out and have it on hand. And if we're recruiting new EMs or ECs, it's just immediately available to get folks up and running. Because, for example, I know Mike in the past has said, I remember a conversation with him where he was saying, hey, if we're going to bring on all these new EMs and ECs, how do we even get them trained up? What resources do we have? And, those 4 links, like if I were in San Francisco, I would just send those 4 documents to folks and say, look, this is everything that's involved in being an EM or EC, and do the training based off that.
So over the years, there's been a variety of approaches, everything from getting a conference room after work, having people take mass transit in downtown to share a pizza and go over a slideshow. And that was happening monthly, which was hard to pull off, finding that many office space, and then quarterly. And now it's pretty much one-on-one individual. So I think there's a lot of room for flexibility, and whether you want to do it over pizza quarterly or just recruit at events or organically online. We had a great recruit she responded to something if you need management experience in a hurry, and she was applying to grad school. And she's in grad school, and she's been a consistently great manager since. So I know that was touched on earlier in recruiting is to attract people who want management experience, and that does work. So to each his own.
Awesome.
Well,
okay. Over to you, Graham.
So, I mean, that's pretty much all I had planned for, unless anyone has any other questions. We are having our 3rd session, and typically we've been doing it every 2 weeks, so because we have our chapter director board calls in 2 weeks, we're going to do the next one next week. So it'll be next Monday, the 20th. We'll send out an email to remind people. It will be, next week will be specifically related to volunteer events, how to get them up on the calendar, what's best practices for setting up a volunteer event, what's the whole process for doing that, the whole events team kind of piece. So that's what we'll be doing next week, is focusing on volunteer events. Awesome. And once again, if you haven't done the quiz, you should fill it out. And we will make the link for this session available. We'll put it up on YouTube like we did with the first one, so we'll be able to share that with people so we can send it to people who weren't able to attend. And hopefully we'll see you all next week, and enjoy your night. Brian, I don't know if you have any closing thoughts.
No, thank you so much for attending, and I really wish I had more of an opportunity to get out and meet folks, and you've been involved with One Brick for years now, and this is the first time we've met, so I apologize for not being more sort of involved with all the chapters. Paul, I'm sorry it's the first time we've met. It's fantastic to meet you.
It's been really great to meet you as well.
And Roger, you and I have known each other. Roger and I went to elementary school together, and Keegan and I went to middle school together. So we've known each other.
Being modest, I was your teacher, of course, and bit of but I'll take it, no problem.
Have a good evening, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Good night. Thanks.
Bye.
Good night.